channel. I am your host, as always, Rashid White, and on this channel I teach you defensive driving strategies, strategies that'll save you time, money, personal injury, and most importantly, your life. This channel we focus on accident prevention. We don't worry about who's at fault, but how can we actually prevent accidents? That's the whole key here. Alright, so today's video is going to be about going into like the worst part of the Bronx of New York, where the drunks are at. You know, the drunks, the druggies. But it's getting kind of late over here. It's 3 something in the afternoon, and we're just getting off work here. So we're gonna just do some highway driving and do this video properly, because I think the last highway driving video I made, was in the earliest stages of my YouTube side hustle and editing and everything, and it was horrible. There was duplicates and everything. So we're going to show you some safe highway driving tips, and just follow these tips, and I guarantee you almost a certainty that you will not have any accidents. That's for sure. All right, so we're going to get onto the highway, and we're going to break down some tips here. Let's see. We're going to roll as soon as this light actually turns. So now the first thing you do when you enter the highways, you high probability for the most part, you're going to have to yield. There's some highways where you don't actually have to yield, but for the most part, you actually have to yield. And yield means slow down and actually be prepared to stop. So think about it. You're going to make some judgments and see how fast the cars are coming behind you. It's equivalent to, let's say, crossing the street. You're crossing the street, the car is actually going at, like, let's say 10 to 15 miles an hour, even though he's about like 4 or 5 blocks back, then you can cross the street. But if it's doing 30 to 35, 40 something miles an hour, 50 something miles an hour, then you are actually going to have to wait. So there's traffic here. That was a really good scenario, but just basically breaking down what yielding onto the highway actually means. So the people on the highway actually has the right of way. Now we're getting on the Hutchinson River Parkway north here, and we have a yield sign, and this is something that you can't just get on the highway and just start speeding up. Oh Lord, I think they opened the bridge up here, man. So we have to wait our turn. Just be patient. Never ever ever be in a hurry. Alright, so there's going to be instances, a lot of times, as a matter of fact, I said instances, but there's going to be times where you're actually on the highway, and now traffic is actually merging onto the highway coming into your lane. Now, most people are going to be overly aggressive. They're not going to follow the traffic laws, and they're just going to yield they're just going to force their way on. I want you to back off. Just back off and let them go. Let them go. Don't get into an ego challenge. Don't let your ego get the best of you and say, oh no, I got the right of way, and the next thing you actually know is that you actually have a collision on the highway. So the key here is accident prevention. Accident prevention. We want to prevent the accidents. We want to save ourselves time. Nobody got time to be getting into an accident, especially in today's world. And people are busy, and you got things you got to do, and kids, and work 2 jobs, and you don't want to have to get into an unnecessary accident, and it costs you time, it can cost you money, personal injury, and then most importantly, it can actually cost you your life. So the next thing is actually following distance. I'm doing about 30 something miles an hour, about 35 miles an hour approximately. And you want to keep a two car follower distance. Again, the faster your car actually goes, the harder it is to actually stop. And there's times you're not going to be able to bring the car to a complete stop. So my next thing is actually leaving yourself out. So if you can actually help it, try not to ride, like if somebody's next to you on the highway, try to back off a little bit, because there's times where you're going to have to actually bring the car into the next lane to actually avoid it. Third thing is actually checking your mirrors frequently. Now the standard is every 3 to 5 seconds to actually check your mirrors, but A lot of people aren't going to do that, but you know, I do it every 3 to 5 seconds. I check this mirror on my left side, and I check my excuse me. I check the rear mirror over here. I want to know exactly who's behind me, how fast are they going, are they actually aggressive drivers? Because a lot of times you can actually pinpoint that in your rear view mirrors. So use your mirrors; they are your best friends. And the next thing I want to do, lane changes. Now, especially on a highway like this, it's a 3-lane highway. I want to make a 5-second lane change. 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seconds lane change. Do not make 2 seconds like an aggressive lane change, because we want to be able to counter for other aggressive drivers. So the problem is with that is if you make an aggressive lane change and the next person actually makes it, the person in the third lane makes an aggressive lane change, both of you are going to have a collision, and it can be bad. It can be really, really ugly in terms of potentially like highway shutdown type of bad. So definitely 5-second lane changes. So we also want to watch out for see people aren't watching. I'm gonna just let them in. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm gonna let them in. I'm gonna slow down. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. It took me 1 to 2 seconds just to let this guy in. Next thing is actually getting the big picture. You want to look 12 to 15 seconds ahead. Always constantly scanning 12 to 15 seconds ahead. So right now the traffic is coming to a halt, and I don't want to wait till I'm right up on the traffic to actually stop. I'm like, oh, well, you know. So this actually prevents you from being rear-ended. And it gives the people behind you enough time to actually slow down. Even though I'm doing 23 miles an hour, I'm still constantly checking my mirrors. I'm looking at the other drivers' pace and how they driving, if they're too aggressive. So another thing you have to watch out for on the highways is this is mainly like in the cities. I don't know what is it with cities, but people speeding up on you when making the lane change. So you got to be careful. You got to be cognizant of that, because people will do that. They have no patience, and you're trying to make a lane change. Especially my truck drivers out there and my bus drivers out there, man. They do not want to drive behind a big vehicle, and it's just the ignorance of people. And whatever, they didn't give themselves enough time, or there could be a family emergency, they're late for work, or they have to use the bathroom. Hey, that's none of our business. Again, we're just here to actually prevent accidents and get home safely. You know, a lot of traffic accidents each year. If you're in the United States, you get a lot of people that are killed and hurt, maimed in traffic accidents. So we don't want to be part of that statistic. So I'm still checking my mirrors, even though I'm doing like 18 miles an hour, because I want to know when I have to make the lane change, who is driving aggressively or not. You know, so the whole thing here is just like I said, it's just planning ahead. Planning ahead. Sometimes people are going to make aggressive lane changes. Just let them go. Let them go. It will not kill you. Again, we got to keep our egos in check. So another thing when actually getting the big picture, when I was mentioning previously about bringing the car to a stop, you also need to check your shoulders of the highway, because sometimes you may have to put the car there, you know, and you want to see if there's any broken down cars on the side of the road that's in the shoulder. So always pay attention, read everything what's going on around you. Definitely read your road signs. Slippery when wet. Bridge freezes over before the road does. A lot of traffic signs that you actually have to pay attention to. Know where you're going. If you're not very like you're not good in terms of like reading maps, using GPS, you should always know exactly where you're going, so that way you can focus on the road. If you don't do that, if you're lost, you're not going to be focus on the road and you're going to wind up causing an accident. I was in Maine with a tractor trailer about 21 years ago, and I was looking for 95. This is before GPSs came along there, and I was looking for 95, and I ran a red light. I mean, with a big, 80,000-pound vehicle, man. Lucky thing nobody was in the intersection crossing, but so it just shows you the importance of actually knowing exactly where you are going to. So plan ahead. Don't wait till you get on the road to say, okay, well, let me try to figure it out. No. When you're home, this is for my first time drivers out here, and it's especially for my truck drivers. Know exactly where you're going, plan ahead, so you know exactly where you're going. And if there's let's say a traffic jam or highway closure, pull over safely and figure out an alternative route there. And if you gotta write stuff down, like if you feel like you're lost, pull the car over.